parts of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. Covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more, SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
Hello and welcome to SOUQ Pulse. We here again, and like yesterday, the discussion, the banter will always continue. We here, and what do we talk about? We look at economies of not just Africa, we look at Asia, we look at Europe. We look at loans taken both from development agencies, from within and outside. We look at organizations. How do all this affect business? Are they making profit? Are they losing? Who is collecting those particular profits? Who is stringing the order? We ask these questions and we tell ourselves, if not the truth, but we tell ourselves what is happening. And we'll tell who is not sitting up, sit up. But we have a bias for Africa, and so we dwell a lot on Africa. Asia has a whole lot of influence, and we also ask questions. How can we emulate? How can we get into the marketplace and join the race? It's SOUQ Pulse, and my name is Chuks. John-Rogers Chuks. Today we are doing more of a continuation of what we spoke about yesterday, and to everyone that joined the conversation on our social media handles, I want to say thank you. Still go back there and let that conversation continue. Today we have that same 1 hour that we are finding it difficult to stick to and make sure that, hey, this programming don't go beyond. We look forward to doing something beyond that. For today, we are looking at, yesterday we got to tech and stopped. So today we are dwelling strictly on tech. And we are looking at solutions. How can we develop tech solutions for Africa's problems? Someone will be wondering and say, what is he talking about? 90% of hardware used here is imported. More than 90%. Most of the workforce that is being trained here, apart from those in tech, a large percentage is looking forward to using the word jackpot or working for a big conglomerate somewhere. Whereas we have our own endemic problems here that need to be sorted. I have a guest, someone you've seen on this particular station severally, and he's bringing not just his intellect, but his know-how to SOUQ Pulse on this beautiful afternoon. I have with me Mr. Seyi Akindeyinde, and he happens to be the founder of Hyperspace. When I heard Hyperspace, I had to pause and ask certain questions. Sir, you're welcome to SOUQ Pulse.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here as always, and it's always good to join in topical conversations like this.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And to put this in perspective, you know how it is here. He's not one of those that come late. He wasn't late. He was here right on time. And we're still looking at each other. This is his first time on SOUQ Pulse, and hey, let's hold everyone of us accountable, just the way we look at those leading and say, hey, you are not doing right. So let's start with our topic, developing Africa Tech solution for Africa's problems. Do we have problems in Africa?
Do we have problems in Africa? Yes, we have problems in Africa.
Do we? We go to church, we commit everything to God's hands. So why are you saying we have problems?
Yes, we do that. Yes, we do. We go to church. For people that go to the mosque, they go to the mosque. And for the people that go to the shrine too, they do that. But the fact that you are doing that doesn't mean that you are going to be, the problems are just going to go away. God even himself has created everything for mankind to be able to use to solve whatever problems we're going to face on
So
this
starting, we shouldn't leave our problems in God's hands?
No, we should. Well, yeah, there are certain kinds of problems that you can commit in God's hands.
Did you take your bath this morning?
Oh, yes, I did.
Why didn't you wait for God to?
Oh, because I knew that if I was coming out to a studio like this, I don't want to inconvenience the anchor, so I have to do my own part.
Okay, so we have to do our own part.
Absolutely.
Then God does his own part.
Absolutely.
So basics.
Exactly.
There are issues.
There are issues.
And solutions need to be provided.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that is like a starting point. When you see someone that is intelligent, you don't need extra miles or extra things to investigate. Now, let's start from the basics. Yesterday, we had an argument. I will call it an argument. So let's start from that argument. First of all, when we talk about tech worldwide, the first place that comes to mind is India.
Yes.
Good. Now, for those in the banking sector or those that have issues with POS, whatever that you've put on social media and sacked a bank or queried the bank or shouted over your money coming or not coming. Now, in the last 7 years, from 7 years down, we've had Nigerian banks train 70% above of their workforce in IT in India. Not just training, sending them there. Now, that is a problem. Workforce problem, IT problem. Let's start with that particular problem. Why can't we, at this point in time, after over 20 years of us doing good IT banking and our banking sector dropping profits year in, year out, why can't we provide a solution for that?
Thank you very much for that question. That is a very thought-provoking question. And I'll start by saying that the problem, one of the things we've been doing is we've been trying to solve the symptoms of the problem. We've not actually addressed the fundamental issues that, that is bringing about, this problem. And what is that?
Pause. Tell us that problem.
And what is that problem? That problem we have is that of our educational system. You see, no matter what you do, every country, every nation is built upon the foundations of the education that you give, the populace. If you don't give them the right sort of education, they are not going to perform. You mentioned something about India being the tech capital of the world. If you go to India today, from like 3, 4, 5-year-old kids, they've started training them on how to use technology, on how to build software, on how to learn how to code, on how to learn these things. Then it carries over to, their foundational stages in, nursery, primary, then before they get to university. And then, now, what I like about those kind of countries is that they do not just, they are not just focusing on the tertiary education as per university and masters and PhD. They also have technical schools. They also have for people that just want to go and learn how to code or how to build, the mobile phones we're using, or how to build software, how to build chips and all that. They go in there. But what do we have in Nigeria? We just have an educational system that's still based on the past. If you go to most of the schools, from primary to secondary, and it's even worse in a tertiary educational system where, an average university graduate that has gone to school to study something like computer science or computer engineering can simply not perform on the job. So that is the fundamental problem that we have to address. For as long as we leave that unsolved, no amount of prayer, no amount of whatever you want to do will take us out of that. So we need to address that foundational problem from that source.
Okay, we need to address the educational problem from that source. Now, the educational issue is not just IT-based. It cuts across everywhere. Okay, now, banks are still using a high percentage of software built in India. Let's now leave the education part out of it. Let's look at those banks. Can't a bank fund, I don't know what to call it, can't a bank fund a software that they can use? Or let's say a Zenith Bank fund a particular software and sell to other banks, or other banks can now come in and use?
They can.
What's stopping them?
They can, but you see, for you to do that, you have to remember that these banks are not just, they are for profit. They are established to...
Are they not seeing, just the way they are going to India to buy this software, and the license is just a license they are buying.
Yeah.
Let's even start, it's not as if maybe they are giving you, it's all yours. It's a license you're buying, it expires. If you have issue, you come to us. Okay, we'll train people that can do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
They can't do 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
So when it gets to 5, 6, 7, you come back to base, you pay. So why they are for profit? Why can't the bank see the profit in this venture?
Well, because you see, software, the way you have said it looks like, oh, it's something that the India that they are going to didn't start like that as well.
I agree with
one
you.
of the things I think the banks, and I think that some of them are actually doing it. So before you get to the banking application that they are using that is coming from India, now if you want to sort of establish a base for that, so there are companies that I know now that are building even basic accounting software. So when you build that and you sell it to a bank and it works well, then you can move to you progress to the next level. Maybe you start to build it, you inculcate it into an HR kind of system that now does, instead of just bookkeeping, it now does recruitment, it does a lot of all the other HR things. Then you move,
you scale up again.
You scale up till you get to a level where a Nigerian organization is competent enough to build an entire end-to-end enterprise banking application for specific banks. You see, India has been doing it for a long time. It's just like saying somebody, I mean, if you look at everything we use, even the computer system we're using, we're still using Windows operating system. Who built Windows? Is an American company. The iOS we're using on our phones, the Android we're using. It's almost like saying, oh, why can't a Nigerian or a Nigerian company build that? You see, if you look at the people that are building it, they started it way before, And one of the other things I also say is sometimes when something isn't broken, then we do not need to fix it. IT technology it goes beyond borders. It's not tribe, or it's not say because I'm a Nigerian I must. If a Nigerian company today comes out and you build a banking software that works from end to end, we will use it. And I'll give you a typical example of what we're currently doing in Nigeria. There's, without mentioning company, we know that there's Visa, there's MasterCard, but we know that when we use in Nigeria, we have a company called InterSwitch. It is a Nigerian company, and we are also using their cards. Why? Because they came out and built a card that is almost as good as what we use abroad.
Okay. Is InterSwitch working?
It works.
InterSwitch is working?
It works.
Which means more companies can work.
Yes.
If they put their mouth where their money is,
Exactly.
and put their money where their mouth is.
Exactly.
Okay. Now we've spent almost 10 minutes talking about banking, and we have a whole lot. Now let's look at core African problems, not just Nigeria. We have rural areas where it's difficult to access health facilities. If someone gets there and say, okay, we need to buy this drug. Okay, they say the drug is in Kumasi, and someone down in a village outside Accra needs this particular drug. We saw in the news where drones were able to move, but that is just like, I don't know whether it's sampling or what can tech do for this kind of problem, be it telemedicine, be it, as in what can we develop here, not just waiting to go buy something and come here and still keep waiting for them to give us solutions. In that particular sector, what do you think we should do? Who should we start training? Who should we start pointing hands to?
You don't, like you just said now, somebody in a certain eastern part of Africa thought about this kind of problem, that you can't get medicines to remote villages, on time. And they came up with that solution of drones. In our own African context, if we cannot use drones, we have motorcycles. So you see, and then these motorcycles can take, if you know the way these drugs work, some of them have to maintain a certain temperature, they have to maintain a certain, ambience, they have to maintain a certain way from fact where you're picking them
majorly vaccines.
So vaccines, and some of these drugs have to, maintain that kind of level. We can have those motorcycles, registered that, okay, these are drug delivery, health-related motorcycles. Then they have this container they put on the back. They equip them with some of the temperature and gauges and all the things that they need to maintain, and you put them, and then a company can come and say, look, we will train people in the village, the healthy people, the men, the young people coming out of, school, on how to use these motorcycles. Then maybe you station a hospital, a healthcare center around the outskirts, so that every day that maybe at every hour, every 2 hours, they're going to pick medicine, and that if any medicine you need, all you need to do is
Yes, welcome back, and sorry for that particular interruption. We were talking about your solution for supplying medicines directly to rural areas. And you said, okay, we can have a post somewhere in the middle. It comes from the city, gets to the post, and we have data if we are keeping that particular record. Now, that now brings to the question, how can we make our people, Africans, take data serious?
We have to actually, it's a cultural problem, because even apart from that, we generally don't use data to make decisions in this part of the world. So it needs to be done maybe by sector. So in that healthcare situation now, somebody, maybe a private sector, because everything can be left to government. Yes, it's something that government should do, but a private sector company can say, look, let's go to each, maybe through the local government of every, organization. Let's know first and foremost, what peculiarities do they have? So if there are certain places where that, oh, in this particular region, they usually this number of children born between this period, and the women that are giving birth need this kind of care. We have the data so that it enables even the ministry or the parastatal in charge to plan against it, to know that, okay, instead of making a blanket, say there is let's say you want to send 20, let's for instance say you want to send 20,000 parcels of drugs to let's say 36,000 parcels, and instead of dividing 36 by 36 states and say, okay, let's send 1,000 to each state, let's say, okay, if there's a particular region that they hardly ever have these kinds of issues, why send 1,000 parcels to them when we have data that in this particular region there are more than 3,000 people that have it, whereas in this region there are less than 500 people. So instead of dividing it equally, you just use that data to, so what that private sector can come in and help collate, gather this data, and probably furnish this, just like some guys are doing with all these budget figures and allocations and all that.
We are getting there. Don't preempt us.
Yes, sir.
Because I foresee us quarreling when we get there. So we are looking at data strictly for planning.
Yes.
So if we don't have data, then what are we planning for? We are making emergency planning.
Yes.
Okay,
we are doing guesswork.
Guesswork.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what we're doing.
So countries in Africa have been doing guesswork for a very long time.
We have been guessing all through. And because we don't have, there's so many situations where, if you look at everything around, we don't use data to plan. Even things like, maybe we'll still come to it, like even in, for instance, now, if you go to a lot of these food centers, maybe eateries, you find out that if you go abroad, say for instance now, you have an eatery, and you find out that there is a long queue to get to, somebody comes in, wants to buy, just chicken or meat pie, and you find out that there's a long queue. There was a statistic that one of the big, I think it was Burger King or one of these big McDonald's did, that where he noticed that, the time it takes to serve a customer, like, so when you place your order, the person who is taking your order, the time it takes for him to pick the order from the show glass, it was like around about 6 seconds. Why? Because the distance from that ordering place to the show glass was like maybe 10 seconds. So it was taking, so what they used data to do was, if we move this closer, you can actually to shorten the time, so you can answer. So instead of answering one person in 10 seconds, you can now answer 2 people, 3 people. It's because they had data. But in Nigeria, when you have an eatery like that, and you see a lot of people queuing up, guess what you will say? It's time for me to open another branch. You have not used data to even find out, why is there a queue? Why do we have this queue at this particular period? Why don't we have the queue at this particular? What can we do with what we have?
Are you against them opening another branch?
Because sometimes you may even find out that's why most times when you find out that they open those branches without using proper data, then they open another branch and they find out that the customers are not coming in as they expect because they didn't use data to know that the reason why you're having that queue is in fact sometimes you even just need to increase horizontally the people. So instead of having like 2 people serving, you probably take 2 or 3 more people to make it 5 so that you can answer more people. It's data efficiency. Exactly. But if you don't have data, you can't make those decisions.
Okay. Now we are looking at let's look at the 3 major sectors. We'll likely come back to banking, finance, money. It's very important. But now let's look at the agri sector. Agriculture employs more people because we have a whole lot of rural farmers, and a large chunk of them do subsistence farming. Now they will need some form of education. They will need some form of information on, be it what's happening with pesticides, be it what's happening with the weather. They will need some form of loans. And now this information is a bit difficult. So everybody is farming on their own. You for yourself, God for all of us. Now, how can technology come into this space? Now, we've seen a whole lot of, in quote, people coming in and aggregating farmers. And we've also seen some other things that we might not be able to explain on this particular program, telling you that you can make money off this. Let's focus right now for the farmers that are already farming. What technology do you think that we can use to make them have access to not just the whatever form of need they get, whatever form of education they get, and whatever form of loans or assistance they need, be it from government or be it from themselves?
The internet is there, and there is...
The man behind Potiscom might not have access to the internet.
But you see, what I always say...
Or have access or know how to use it.
You see, the same man that you're saying does not have access to the internet or no, they use WhatsApp to send messages.
Okay.
So if you can use WhatsApp...
Can we start from...
Exactly. If you can use WhatsApp, a lot of these people, is because of, you see, there's something called needs-based. People think they can't do something until there's a specific need for that thing. That same person that is in the village that you are thinking does not understand technology, a lot of them use, when they want to send money, they use star, something, 1, 2, 3, hash to move money. If you can understand as complex as dialing star 1, 2, 3, you put an account number, you put the account number you're sending money to, and you put a hash after it, and you're able to do that because the need to understand that is far greater than the need of you understanding how technology can balance your business. If you start to look at it from that point of view as well, you will use technology to solve your problem. So, and a lot of these mobile phones, and there are so many of them now that even with the small screen, you can actually do stuff. So if you can use WhatsApp, a lot of those people have people in the town center here that when they send them money, they send them, alert, and they say, oh, I've sent you this, and they are able to open it, they are able to view it, they are able to come. If you can do that, then you are able to
can we start having technology. Extension workers aggregate farmers?
Yes.
Via the mobile
phone. Yes, and I think there are even a few companies that are already even doing, that it might not be something that is generally widespread like that, but I know that there are companies that are actually going into these remote areas and trying to let people know that, look, farming, anything you're doing in the world, farming and all this, it's gone way beyond the way you are thinking about it. There are ways that you can use technology. There are ways that you can use, even, everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, even to use to know the crops to build. It's at the end of the day, you see, like you said, extension workers that are intelligent, that are knowledgeable should be going there to tell them that these are the things that you should be.
Do we still have the extension workers?
We can't get them.
Now, in a case where we have, let's say, 5 in Abia State, for example, can we see where those 5 can engage technology to be able to reach where they can't physically get to?
Exactly, they can. And you see, I also know that the whole purpose of doing NYSC is to solve a kind of problem like this. So if you know that in that kind of Abia State now, there are obviously going to be NYSC students who are coming, who are going to be there for a year. Then what you do is, in that 3 weeks that they are in camp, you train those NYSC people so that when you deploy them, you see, what we see in Nigeria is that people are just because obviously even the government is not working with data. So if you know that Abia State needs a lot of people that have, why don't you send people that read agriculture in university to that place and then train them on technology, and then so that when you empower them, somebody who is a graduate in agri and food science and food technology, and you empower them with technology, they can now spread more into this inner and start to teach these people, in that 1 year on how to use technology to solve whatever problem that they are facing in that place. But what we see is people just don't do it. And then you now incentivize them. You also have to, you can't just tell people to go there. You have to put an incentive mechanism in place that would incentivize the person, the NYC person that you want to use as an extension worker to go. And if there's no how you are going to deploy maybe 1,000 NYC students to that Abia State now, and you will not see maybe like 5, 6, 7 of them that want to actually take that on board after even the NYC, and now find it as a means of, oh, okay, I can actually build something from here, and then they start to link those villagers, those farmers in the villages, even to the access to markets in the west here, southwest here. That's how you can do it. Okay, good.
We want us to be able not just to go to the market and shop and sell, but hey, it's the man that has food in his tummy that can compete. And whether we like it or not, we always say it on this program, the world is on a race and every country is running. We'll go on a break, and after the break, we'll continue. Don't go anywhere.
Lateef Jakande. Born Lateef Kayode Jakande in the Ekpetedo area of Lagos Island, Lagos State, on July 1929. He studied at the Lagos Public School at Enowa, Lagos Island, then at Bonham Memorial Methodist School, Port Harcourt, King's College, enrolled at Ilesha Grammar School, where he edited a literary paper called The Quarterly Mirror. Jakande began a career in journalism in 1949 with a daily service and joined the Nigerian Tribune in 1953. The owner, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, appointed Jakande editor-in-chief of the Tribune in 1956. Jakande established John West Publications in 1975 after leaving Tribune and began to publish the Lagos News. He served as the first president of the Newspaper Proprietors Association of Nigeria, NPAN. Jakande ran for election as executive governor of Lagos State in 1979 on the Unity Party of Nigeria platform. His administration was effective and open and implemented the cardinal policies of his party. He introduced housing and educational programs targeting the poor, building new neighborhood primary and secondary schools, and providing free primary and secondary education. He gave poor people's children education, and many of them are now very prominent in the society today. Jakande established the Lagos State University and constructed over 30,000 housing units. After the military takeover in 1983, Jakande was charged, prosecuted, and convicted of treason and later pardoned. He served as Minister of Works under the Sani Abacha military regime. He died in Lagos on February 11, 2021. Lateef Jakande was the first civilian governor of Lagos State. Lateef Kayode Jakande, SOUQ Enlightenment. The heart of sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery, analyzing and reporting the facts that lay the foundation for growth and development. We don't just report the news, we create it. SOUQ News is more than a channel. It is a catalyst for change, spotlighting the stories that shape economies, inspire entrepreneurs, and fuel progress. covering business, finance, technology, energy, and many more. SOUQ News provides a daily deep dive into the stories that matter, interviews with industry titans, and analysis that empowers your understanding of economic landscape. Join us daily as we dissect, discuss, and deliver the most relevant and factual news on business and the economy. SOUQ News is your trusted guide, empowering you with the knowledge to make informed decisions.
Welcome back to SOUQ Pulse. We're still here and we're looking at African solutions, tech solutions for Africa's problems. Specific tech solutions for African problems. Now, a lot of the problems that have been profiled has not really been tech problems, but more of things that we are supposed to do and we are not doing at all. Things that are on paper that we are not doing. They're all shortcomings. Now, if we are not doing that, then that means even if we deploy the tech solution, we are still going to have issues. So the basics first. Now let's go to somewhere where I think we have some light. I'm looking at education, not just education within our tertiary institutions. I'm looking at education outside our tertiary institutions. Now we get to see people take up on their own tech. I get to see a lot of mentorship happening now, unlike what it used to be before. I get to see a lot of certification happening now, unlike what it used to be before. Then I also get to see young men like you pushing people in the direction where they should go to, unlike what we used to have before. To what extent do you think we should start pushing? Let's say we are at 2% now. To what extent should we start pushing?
We have to get to 100%. Everything is tech-driven. Everything is tech-enabled. There's almost no walk of life that you don't interact with tech. Yes, there are certain parts here that a lot of it is still largely paper-based, largely manually driven and all that. But there's almost nothing that you cannot tech-enable. And I'll tell you a few examples of where tech is actually solving some of these problems that we have here, even though the way we're using it here may not actually align with the way somebody will use it abroad, which is why I always say people that we have to look for tech solutions to African problems. Now, if you remember back in the day, maybe like 10, 15 years ago, when people write JAMB and you write your JAMB and you want to check your results, the day you're going to check your result, JAMB will announce it, and the JAMB office will be filled with a lot of people, trying to get, and it was always jam-packed and all that. What did JAMB do? JAMB realized that not only can we use tech to solve this problem, we can actually make money. Now, how? They now say, instead of you coming to our office, for you to check your result, go and buy a scratch card. Go online to our JAMB portal, scratch the scratch card, put in the number. Once you put in the number, you put in your name, it will bring out your result. Guess what that has done? That has automatically, they've already used technology to automatically solve that problem of people coming to the JAMB office and filling up the place and all that. Secondly, by the time you buy that scratch card, I don't know how much they were selling it, and the number of people that do JAMB every year, maybe like 2 or 3 million people, and paying maybe 10 or 20 naira for that, that's revenue for JAMB. Now, you see why it works here, because of our, that kind of solution will work here. There was a time there was a foreigner that came to the country and saw that. And to him, he said, this kind of thing will not work abroad. Why? Because by right and by law and by default, when you write an exam, you are not supposed to pay.
Your result is sent to you.
It's sent to you. It's free. But in Nigeria, everybody, we're happy to pay. JAMB was that because it was also
because of where we're coming from.
Where we're coming from, and it was also solving that problem of going to the JAMB office, and then it was relieving us. So no parent was actually, in fact, the guy said that if you do this abroad, parents will just take JAMB to court, and But here, nobody took JAMB to court. And if you think about it truly, if I write an exam, why do I have to pay for the result? Aren't I entitled, to that result? But that simple technology, deployment of that technology solved, that problem. And yes, we can say it was a breakthrough, and it's actually solved, that problem. And not only that, it also started. We now have, the advent of influencers, social media, marketers, digital. Technology is enabling otherwise industries that we would not even know exist. So right now, children know that, oh, you don't necessarily have to become a doctor or a lawyer. Once you can have an idea of something, learn how to use your mobile phone to create it, get some software that you can use to edit, videos and pictures, even photographers, videographers. All sorts of industries are leveraging technology right now to, help them make money in this day and age of nobody's really looking at 9-to-5 employment any longer.
For those that are all leveraging, now we need to increase the numbers that are providing these particular apps, providing these softwares, troubleshooting them and making sure that they are working, instead of depending on
foreign, and we're already doing that. I mean, a lot of the, if you look at a lot of the fintech apps that we use now, they're already locally produced. So if you are doing savings, there are apps for it. If you are doing lending, there are apps for it. If you're doing even ordinary blogging, news, there are apps for that. And there are people that, imagine that there are people that are behind these apps. And as you're using those apps, those people too are getting the numbers, because you have to log in, you have to put your email. And also they are getting sponsorship, they're getting endorsements, they're getting, now we even have award shows that are just for, those programs, the best software, best programmer, best this, best that. There are also those kinds of things that we didn't have maybe 5, 6, 10 years ago. So those are the kind of things that
certification.
Yes. Now, certification is another thing that people are going for. Certification just says that, oh, you have mastered the art of, knowing how to use a particular product. Yes, it's good, but most times you find out that a lot of these certifications are they've turned into some kind of money-making venture for the people doing the certification. So you have people that go for certification now that they just go and pass the exam, but they really do not know. You and I know that, for instance, now if I go online, I'm sure I can probably see a certification on how to use a video camera. Even if I've never seen one before, all they will ask me is question, and if I'm able to pass it, does that now make me someone who is experienced in that? No. So at the end of the day, beyond certification, I think people need to go and get skills. You need to, get real hardcore skills.
Now, let's look at this tech for good, where it affects a lot of African countries. 90% of African countries have issues when it comes to budget implementation, census. Where and how can we leverage technology to be able to know at what point in time a budget, whether it's passed or not, what is spent? How can we get access to those information? Because per time these informations go out there, they might not come to the public, but they go somewhere. How can we be able to use tech to get this information and make it public for everyone? Good
question. Again, tech, we always tend to look at tech as a magic wand, like, you just apply tech. You see, but for you to actually use technology presupposes that you have something upon which it is going to work on. Okay. So if you have budget, for you to apply technology on that budget, you need the the underlying data that you want to apply the technology to. So when you have the data, it is now when, and I think this is where even the media, and communications unit of a media team can come and say, okay, if the problem we have now is largely people don't even understand. So if the president comes and reads out the budget and puts, oh, this is recurring expenditure, this is capital expenditure, how many people, do people in Abia State, the people in Gombe, understand what the difference is between, they keep hearing capital expenditure, okay, we spent capital expenditure on building bridges last year, building roads, and then we're still doing the same thing. Somebody needs to break it down to them and say, no, when you say capital expenditure, it means that something that is that is physical, that that is just there, that you service. And then recurring expenditure is things like salaries, and somebody needs to bring that down and start to use the language they understand. Maybe build it and say it in a language that, just like when you go to some ATMs now, they ask you, do you want to hear Hausa or Igbo or Yoruba? They are bringing it home, because this English, somebody will say, oh, where you are supposed to put your pin.
Can we get somebody to start doing? Is it possible?
It is obviously very possible.
Is it something we should start looking at? Because just like you are mentioning capital expenditure, I should be able to, okay, dial *555. Let me know what my local government spent 2 months ago.
Exactly. But remember that if you dial that *555 and you want to know, somebody has to feed it in for you to get that information. Just like your bank now, when you dial *555 to get your balance, somebody at the back end of the bank has fed that information
because he created an app or a solution that can get that.
That *555
that solution we really need in Africa.
Exactly.
Because we need to start holding people accountable.
And then in comes the problem. We don't want to be accountable. We are not transparent with data.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
When you say we are not transparent with data, okay, good. Can we start? When we are discussing here, we are talking to you. We are talking to you that you have a spare time, you have the knowledge, you are really thinking about it. Can we start building some of these apps? It must not be big. You can even monetize it if JAM can tell you to pay for your own result that you paid to write. You can still monetize it. Let me even tell you, each time you dial any of those *555 to collect money from your bank, you are paying, mind you. So can we start looking at that particular aspect? Somebody in Congo, right now they are having a crisis, but still there's a budget that went out. Ghana is having a crisis. They borrowed money up and down. There is still budget that went out. Let us be able to say, okay, if I get onto this app, we used to have budgeted. But to what extent that is majorly a site and an app by the side.
Yes.
But now let's be able to say, okay, good, we are developing this wherever you are. To go here to monitor your side.
We can build it, but you see, for you to build it, you need, like again, you need to collate this data. So if I want to build an app that says, okay, this is Lagos Island, how has Lagos Island local government, how are they using the budget, that came from Lagos State to them? What have they done? Okay, last year they said they want to build this road, they want to fix this, they want to provide water. Okay, have they done it? You see, you have to be transparent about that thing. The people that are supplying it's like, I was reading the newspaper, like 2 days ago, that they are saying that, oh, there's even a discrepancy between the numbers, the population numbers that is being reported and the population numbers that they are seeing on the field, that Nigeria may not even be up to 250 million people, So why would we have that kind of thing? But if we have a national Ministry of Statistics or something like that, anybody should be able to go to the website now. And I should be able to just say, okay, what is the population of, and then there has to be models that are built in. When you're talking about data, there has to be, you have to have a lot of scenarios. You have to have a lot of role playing that, okay, you have seen over the last 10 years that Lagos State is increasing by X%. So right now we're at this. You have to now say, okay, even as a business, I want to project in 10 years time, how much, are we going to grow by? Which area of Lagos is growing by this? By how much? How is that affecting their per capita income? How is that contributing to the GDP of Lagos? I should be able to do that. Those apps can be built. You see, in technology, a building is the least of the problem. It's easy. You can get somebody who has 3 years in programming to code, an app for you. But you see, it's not just about the building of the app. It's about what you're feeding it in and what people are going to get. But we are focusing on, you can build and build and build and build, but what you're building is not going to be of any relevance if it's not supplying. The reason why we use technology is to go back to where I'm coming from in Lekki. I want to use technology to say, okay, there are several routes to take to Lekki. Which route is the most, maybe even in, at this particular time, which route is the fastest for me? I open Google Maps. That's how to use technology. But if the information, why would I open Google Maps? Because I know Google they have a mechanism through which they can tell me the traffic here is more than the traffic here, so I should go through Ikoyi or I should go through VI. So if we don't do that.
Our issue now is the information you're feeding
into that data. Okay. So if you can build a map, but if I open the map and it doesn't tell me anything, how would I use it? It's technology, it's there, but I'm not using it to make a decision.
It's possible to start.
It's possible to start, yes.
So it's possible to start.
I think it's a collective thing, and I also want to speak to parents of kids that are growing up. Encourage them. We live in a world where you see your child with a mobile phone or playing games, and the next thing is, you take it. You see, in advanced countries, all these people that we look at, Mark Zuckerberg, that's why at a very tender age, these people are already thinking of ideas that are shaping, the world. Encourage them to use, technology. It is from there. It's not everybody that is going. There are medical doctors that are technology practitioners. There are medical doctors that are. I know of a medical doctor that developed an app that, he wanted to know when a patient was going to be due for delivery. Just developed the app and plugged it into a device that was measuring the temperature, and once the temperature got in there, it sent him as an SMS. It was a medical doctor using technology to solve his problems. So let's encourage these children. And you see, with technology comes resources. you need a lot of resources. You need, these equipment are not cheap. You can't, technology is something you do practically. You cannot go to school and go and read about, it's like driving. No matter how much you read about driving, they tell you this is the steering, this is the, you have to embed yourself in there for you to know. So that's what we need to do. And the fears that people have is, oh, it's going to take all their time. If you stop a child from playing a game on the computer or on the mobile phone because you think it's going to take the game is going to take all the child's time, what you don't realize is that as the child is playing that game, there's a second kind of knowledge. He's going to have certain issues playing that game, and you'll be thinking, why do I have these issues? Why can't I correct these issues? Which will now lead to the child going to learn how to, learn programming and coding, and in that build his own games and then become, well-known. So technology is, and I like technology because it's a level playing field. Once you're very good in something, it doesn't matter. That's why at the beginning you said this jackpot syndrome. If you look at all the people that are jackpotting to all these countries, a lot of them are going into tech. In fact, some of these countries, especially even countries like Canada, they are encouraging people to come because one of the things they've seen is that they are lacking in some technological skills because they see that America is going and they want to be able to compete. And they have said, okay, we'll open our borders for people that have the skills to come and help us build. So if they are taking our people, why can't we leverage, those things? And then lastly, I think we need to build a Nigerian IT institute. That is going to be completely different from what we have in the universities. So that when people finish maybe from secondary school, instead of saying you want to go to University of Lagos or Ife or whatever, that you just say, I want to go and learn. That's what India did. You build it and equip it. And then you probably put it in every state and say, look, you want to do this after secondary school. You don't have to go to a university. You don't have to go to Yabatech or whatever. Go to a Nigerian IT institute where if you want to learn artificial intelligence, you will learn artificial intelligence. If you want to learn programming, you will learn programming. Practically, it will be equipped with all the hardware in the world, all the best software, so that you are coming out like this. Companies, banks, that is the only way we can now start to get. In your final year, you now do a project. I mean, if you do a project where you are writing an enterprise application, a bank can now invite you and say, okay, let's test it with this branch. And if it works, then we adopt it. And that's how you can change, the landscape.
Okay, this narrative never stop. We never stop talking about this. Remember, it's still SOUQ PULSE, and we are looking at Africa getting better. We need to join this race. So wherever you are, I hope you heard. I hope you understand. You can go back and watch again and encourage somebody. My name is Chuks, John-Rogers Chuks. Mr. Sheyi, thank you very much for coming in.
You
deserve a very strong handshake. We'll do this again tomorrow. For everyone there, have a nice and beautiful Valentine. Bye.
Sub-Saharan Africa, where commerce meets progress. Welcome to SOUQ News, your source for business, economy, and development insight that drive nations forward. From the vibrant streets of Lagos, Africa's fastest economic hub, SOUQ News takes you on a journey of discovery